Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is the second video in the analysing the Disas sort of set. There's only two trayfuls, and it's the same format as before. I'm doing this so that my words become things that I can type into my notes to identify which plants are going to need potting on or splitting and potting first, and which ones can wait, which ones are finished blooming, etc., so that I can update my notes with a much more detailed analysis of the plants. So that's what we're up to. Same as before, basically. So we'll do the small pots first. Right, so this one's called Disa Twelveheads White Group. It's nearly finished blooming. There's only one of the plants in this pot that's actually bloomed, but there are quite a few other plants, and the moss is 1.5 inches high, so it's coming off. Same as before. I think this fluffy moss like this that grows to a height is just keeping the base of the plants far too wet, which is not a good idea. There's potential for rot. I mean, these are bog plants. They are used to being very wet, but they're also used to being in very fresh, relatively thin air, yeah, and mountain air, and airflow and everything else, and in their natural environment. So this one, this potful, has got quite a few new growths. If you look, all these are new growths. That one's probably going to die back. New growths here and all round here, and again the one that's flowered will die back. This is a miniature basically. These do not grow large, as are the flowers. Very, very small, nonetheless attractive. Looks quite like a species. Whether it is or not, I don't know. It's been written with a capital T, 12 heads, but as we know, not everybody does labels properly. We shall see. But this one will get potted up into a bigger pot. I'm not sure it will go into a 1 litre pot. That might be a bit too big, so it might end up going in one of my smaller ones. We shall see. I won't split it, I'll just let it grow on. So that's that one. That is not ready for potting on or dealing with yet because the blooms haven't died right back yet. So that's that one. Next one, this is the other 12 heads, and this is yellow group. So this is Disa 12 heads yellow group. Again, this hasn't finished blooming yet. Tiny little blooms that don't fully open. And we've got a pot full of moss again. So already, just as I started pulling that moss off, I've uncovered 2 new growths that were buried in the moss and not seeing the light of day. So I think this exercise is useful, especially now when I need to know where the new growths are, as I'm thinking of potting on and everything. So that's that one. And that is quite a few new growths spread around the pot. Yeah, they're tiny. Again, it's a miniature. They don't grow large. So that one will get potted on into a bigger pot. So it won't get repotted. It will just get potted on. This that I'm pulling off is not moss. It's algae, which is a trifle worrying on the top of the pot. Got in there from somewhere. You have to bear in mind, the guy that I got these Disas from, I never thought to ask, where did he get them from? Anyway, that's that one. Again, that one can wait for a while, it's still in bloom. Now this small pot has got very attractive small to medium size Disas, and this is Creegbrawse, B-R-A-W-S-E, C-R-E-E-G-B-R-A-W-S-E. It's a multifloral with lovely peachy coloured blooms on. So I like this one a lot. It's also very tall for the size of the actual plants. So this is a different one altogether. It's a miniature plant, but it certainly doesn't produce a miniature spike. It's still in bloom. It has some new growths, but not many. If you look, one here, that one will probably survive, and another couple coming up here, but not a lot. So again, it's in bloom. That goes to the back of the queue for being dealt with. So that's that one. That's the last of the small pots. Right, this one. This is a pot full. This is Disa Pennance. Do you know when I first read that? I in my mind I read it as Penzance, the town down in Cornwall, but it's Pennance. And it's finishing blooming. This spike has bent and is, as a consequence of dying back properly. The other two spikes are still in full bloom. Yeah, so this one automatically goes to the back of the queue. This has got a while to go before these blooms go. And it is a pot full. As it is a pot full, it will get split. This one will get done to it what the guy said. Split them into 4 and put each piece in a litre pot and grow them on. He said they will soon fill those pots. So that's what we'll do. And this is one of those. This is what will get done to this one. Just pulling off the dead leaves at the moment. You just give them a gentle tug. They either come out or they don't. If they don't, they stay. I'm not going into snipping with scissors and things. That's a good way to get rid of new growths. So that's that one. That is at the back of the queue for work being done. It's still in full bloom. There's enough new growths in that pot to enable that to be split into 4. Right, what's that? We're running out of space here. Right, the next one, another large pot, and it's a large pot of Disas that when it was in bloom had a very, very short spike with small blooms on. And this one is Kewensis Ann. Now this one has quite a few new growths showing. No, actually there was a second one with a bloom spike that was already cut off, so that was probably done by the guy before he brought it to me. But what we've got here is a large pot that's not full. So this might not split into 4, it might only split into 2 or maybe 3. But all of the growth is over this side of the pot, and there is a lot of it. There's a lot of new growths coming up. But over this side of the pot there's just 1, or maybe 2. There are a few smaller ones showing, so it's difficult to know what to do with that. But once it comes out of the pot, splitting them is going to be relatively easy. They will almost fall apart, I'm pretty certain of that. I may be wrong. But that one can come to the front of the queue along with some of the others in the other tray. The blooms have completely gone, the spike is starting to die back, the new growths are pushing on. So that one can have work done on it relatively soon. Right, 2 more big pots to go. Oh, now this one again is still in bloom, and these are large, very colourful blooms. They are starting to go over, they're showing signs, but nonetheless this is still in bloom. So we won't be doing anything to this pot in the near future. Yeah? And this one is, let's find my tag so that I know what I'm doing and update my notes. This is Betty Arnold, 2015, clone 15. Now it's possible that all of that information is part of the name. Yeah? It could be some sort of code that the seller has got and it's just unique to him and means nothing. But Betty Arnold is the basic hybrid name. Again, this is a pot full. It's got 3 spikes on it. I'll call it multifloral, but in actual fact it only has 2 blooms per spike, or 1. Yeah? This is a normal pot full. There's loads of new growth coming. This will get split into 4. So that's. It also goes to the back of the queue because it's still in full bloom. Now the last one. This is a mess, this one, to look at, but let's just have a look and see what we've got. There's lots of dead leaves hanging off of this, all over the place, all around the side of the pot. There's loads of them. So there's a lot of dieback on this one. An awful lot. Let me just show you all this. Lots of it. So I will pick as much of that off as possible. This pot has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spikes, which means most of the reasonable sized plants in this pot have bloomed. They'll die back, they won't bloom again. These blooms are nearly over, but not quite. And this one's got 2 labels for some strange reason. Right, this is the other Disa Suzette James, and whereas the previous one was clone 24, this is clone 14. I'm going to get rid of the second label because it hasn't got the clone name on. There's no need for both. Now this one is in a different state to the others because the new growths are quite tiny. It's still sort of in bloom, but the blooms are definitely going. They're not long for this world, but they don't need cutting off yet. There's one I missed there. That could do with cutting off. The problem is there is a remote possibility that some of these could have been pollinated, and obviously I don't want the plants wasting energy on seeds. I wouldn't know what to do with them anyway. It's like this, I'll show you. This is what's below the bloom. That's a seed pod, I think. Yeah? Well, we don't want the plants going to seed. But then, most of them look like they've got a swelling behind them, but not all of them. There's one here that's got a swelling behind one bloom and not the other one. And that's on the same spike. So there could have been some pollination going on here. Anyway, I'm trimming dead blooms off. Those that have still got a little bit of time to go, I'm leaving. But as I said, I don't want them going to seed. That will drain the energy quite dramatically. So, yeah, this is a pot full again, but the new growths are not pushing on very strong at the moment. The pot is dominated by those that have already bloomed and the spikes that go with them. And most of the leaves on those plants are dying back, making the pot look like a right mess. I'm just trying to get some of them out of the way. Won't be able to get many, I don't suppose, but we can get some of them. Let the new growth see the daylight perhaps. So, as I said, this is a messy pot full here with an awful lot of dead hanging off the edge of the pot. It's possible that it was squashed in, but most of the new growths are right round the very edge, and they don't seem to be doing that well on this pot. But it could be that I was just going to say it could have been a first blooming, but there is only a first blooming on Disas. They only bloom once. As far as I know, they only bloom once. So, this might not be a strong grower. This might be one that's, you know, going to be a little bit troublesome. You know, it's the same like if you grew Paphiopedilums, for instance, there are some that are going to be much slower growers than others and quite difficult to get to bloom. You know, well, there could well be some of those in the Disa world as well. So that's the look. I haven't brought me a towel in, got wet hands. At the second tray full, and my comments on what I will do with them and whether they're at the front of the queue to have something done to them or whether they're at the back of the queue. And anything that's still in bloom like this, these blooms have still got a while to go before they die back. So that pot is right at the back of the queue. Same over here, these will be a while before they die back. These have started, but you know, we shall see how we go. So that's what this video was all about. I will now take this off the camera, get it onto my laptop and process the two, because there's two videos on the camera at the moment. They'll have a long gap on YouTube, but at the moment they're both on the camera at the same time. I'll separate them out, turn them into postable videos, and then while I'm playing them back, I'll update my notes as I go, which is why I very carefully read the names out on each of them so that I know what I'm doing. And yeah, that's there is a playlist for the Disas, so everything to do with the Disas goes in a playlist. I believe you can set notifications on a playlist, which means every time I post something into that playlist, you would get a notification. Don't quote me on that, I believe that can be done. But nonetheless, obviously if you've got notifications set on the general channel, you would know when I posted a video anyway. It's just that you might not be interested in all of the videos, but you might specifically be interested in the Disa ones. So a way of getting a notification on those is to set it on the playlist, if that's possible. Sounds like the sort of thing that ought to be possible, but I've never done it. I don't use playlists, quite honestly, not on YouTube. I go and find things, and YouTube recommends stuff. Sometimes I take them up on it and think, that looks interesting, I'll have a look. Nope. Let's have a look at that one. Nope. And occasionally I watch the whole thing, but you know, that's how I use YouTube. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. And those that are interested in the Disas, the workload on these starts not in the not too distant future. I would say certainly beginning of September we'll be thinking about making a start. So that things that have the work done have got plenty of time to establish themselves in their new pots, new media, prior to going into winter when they will slow right down. They won't slow down because of lack of temperature, they'll slow down because of much shorter day lengths. So they will slow up in their growing process. These are cool to cold growers. They're not going to take any notice of the lower temperatures. They will probably enjoy it. They'll probably go, yay, we're on holiday. Feels like home, sort of thing. So there we go. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.